Morning, everybody. Welcome back to another video. It's a kind of a cooler morning in the desert, which is kind of nice for a change. I actually had to get a sweater out today. Yesterday I was having a conversation with several people who were relatively new to the spiritual metaphysical world. And we were talking about some of the concepts and talking about the books that I have. And their idea was, well, what is the best book for somebody who is relatively new to that field, doesn't have a lot of understanding. And so what I wanted to do is go over the books that I have and kind of an overview on each one so that you can get an understanding, because I realize that they all have a very different focus on them. And I hadn't really put much thought into that, but I have recently. So we'll start off. The first one that I did is Truth Beyond the Earthly Matrix, Understanding the Earthly Programs of Limitations and Controls. And what I do in this book is it's basically a way for people to start realizing that your life, your thoughts, your actions are controlled by the belief systems that you have, which are part of the programs of this matrix, the things you've been told your entire life. Understanding that a belief is something that you've accepted from someone else. A belief is not something that you know. It's things you've probably gotten from your friends, family, society, and so on, and you have those beliefs for a certain reason. And my goal in the first book is to point out some of these programs that have probably controlled you more than you realize, and things that you've accepted without ever even questioning it. And as I stated in most of my books, my goal is not to get you to think like I do, believe, even though I don't believe much anymore. I know anymore. But it's to make you question the things that you believe and why you believe them, so that you can move forward. As I used to say, you can never grow as long as you accept the status quo, and that comes to the programs of your life, the things that you believe. So the first book is to kind of introduce a person to the idea of programs in the matrix, how they work and operate in your life, and what they do for you. Patricia Farthington and I did a pretty good interviews on this book. We went through, I think it was 3 different books, 3 different videos, and 5 chapters in each book, where we go kind of an in-depth talk about some of these. Again, not as much as if you read it, but again, it's a good book for somebody to start off to kind of get introduced to these programs and start realizing that your world is a lot more controlled than what you thought it was. The second book I did is this one, We Are the Real Body Snatchers, Who and What We Are. It's probably been the least popular of the books, simply because I don't have the title matrix in the title of it. The purpose of this book is probably the most in-depth explanation of who and what we are, how the brain operates, what the brain is, the heart center, what the ego and the spirit represent within our body, how they operate, the program. Those are the programs that run us, control us. Those are the things that determine basically what we do all the time, and what some people would call an entity or a demon that is controlling us, or the spirit or the ego, because those are your 2 choices. Go through how they connect to the universe, how creation happened. It's for people who have an understanding already. It's at least some good basis understanding. It's the book that they have liked the most. The general public, not as much, simply because most people don't have that understanding. But it's a very in-depth book about who and what we really are, what reality is, helping you to kind of understand and grasp what reality is. Because as far as I know, and what I've felt, is that until you know who and what you are, and what the reality of the world around you actually is and isn't, you're never going to be able to move very far on your spiritual journey. You can't fix a car if you don't understand how the car works. So, just to give you a couple of ideas, the titles that are in here, it's when does the spirit enter our body? The body, brain, heart, and minds, what are they? Physical healing, does it happen as we've been told? Dealing with our family emotional issues, emotions and feelings, what are they? Matrix, sub-matrix programs, torsion fields, what is reality and time-shifting realities. And in this book, for the first time, I actually go through and put a lot of the experiences that I've had inside and outside the body, as well as the what they would call alien contacts, so to speak, and how I've learned the things that I've learned, where I've gotten that information, so that you realize I'm not just kind of pulling it out of the thin air, but everything I talk about is based upon what downloads of information I received and experiences that I've had and the knowing I've had while I've been on those experiences. So I said this book is more in depth. If you already have a good understanding, but you're not really sure of who and what you are, what reality is, this would be a good one for you to go through. The third book is Hidden Layers of the Earthly Matrix, Death in the Afterlife, and What is the Earth? You know, this is a book, again, that's doing a lot better than what it was before, but it is, what this does is I go into two of the biggest programs of this world, and the purpose of it is to show you that all of these programs have a multitude of layers, and that you can get trapped in any of the layers of these programs. You know, this book hasn't had the greatest of reviews because I talk about, especially the part about what the earth is. You know, this is not a book for people who accept science and or religions as your God and your belief system. If you do, you may not even understand the book, because it goes through, what is the earth? Is it a ball speeding through space at 1.8 million miles an hour, and yet you never feel it even while spinning at over 1,000 miles an hour? Is it a flat horizontal plane? Is there a firmament above it or below it or around it? How did that happen? Is it hollow? Are there a multitude of layers inside and outside? Are we simply, maybe we're inside another Earth? Other Earths inside, or other systems and aliens and beings and so on inside? Does it consist of concentric rings, making larger and larger concentric rings, like the concept of Atlantis and Plato had talked about, and who was it, Admiral Perry, when he did his flyover and claimed that he went beyond the poles for 1,300 miles and still never saw the end of land, unexplored land. So this book goes through the concepts of what the earth has been thought about. It's designed, and it's not written, any of the books I write are not designed to tell you what to think. They're written and designed to make you think, to question what you've thought. And as I said, if you accept religions and gods as your reality, as your truth, then this book is probably not something you're going to even comprehend. It just isn't. And then in this book, what I do is I also go through and explain to you the downloads and the knowledge and information that I've gained about what the earth actually is. And again, I talk at that also from a much higher perspective, maybe another higher vibration than a lot of people would in the end. But my point in that is trying to get you to realize that there are a multitude of layers. So this is again, and then when I talk about the death and the dying, it's what do the different religions believe? I think I do 21 or 22 different religions, what they believe about dying in the afterlife. And the point of that is to get you to see the similarities of religions, where they came from, and the fact that they're all based upon the same thing. And I go through some of the background history on them, as well as, I guess, what you would, where they want you, where they think you're going to go, their heaven, their paradise, or what they think their escape plan is for this world. So that one's a lot of research and a lot of information on that, and again, I then explain at the end of that as to what I've experienced and what I know is, and where we're going, and how we're getting there. But the big thing I found about some of the concepts on the first part of it about dealing with what the earth is people get really hung up on the idea that science tells them it's a round ball speeding through space millions of miles an hour in a universe that is expanding it higher than the speed of light. And they get hung up on that, and when I start explaining that there are other ideas, there are other realities and dimensions out there where other things exist, and what it is, they can't handle that. It breaks their science mind. So as I said, if science and religions are your gods, don't even bother with my books because it's just going to simply waste your time and you're just going to get frustrated. The last book is the Entering the Fourth Dimensional Matrix, the 3D matrix programs that will have to change as we move forward, which is what we're doing now. I explained in there about things like religion, politics, finances, the medical system, how these systems have developed, where they have to go, and the fact that they have to change over time because they're broken. They don't work anymore, and these systems will not function as we move forward into what we would consider to be a fourth dimensional reality, which is where we're going now. And we're on the point where we're going to be switching those fourth dimensional timelines, and the choice that you make as to which direction or what experience you want to have will be the one that determines your future reality, the reality you're going to experience, the world you're going to be living, the universe you're going to be living in. And what I'm pointing out on this book, this is a big picture type book. I'm trying to show you the programs that are behind the scenes, things that you may not even tie together overall. You know, the big picture look at them, how they are all tied together behind the scenes, how they are all happening and functioning for the same purpose, and that is to attempt to move humanity forward to a better, well, for me anyway, for a better timeline. I think for most of us would want a better timeline where humanity is going to thrive and survive and grow versus being controlled, which we did on the old 4D timeline, the biohuman tech timeline, which is, again, it's out there as well. And those are the old programs of the Matrix that are pushing back to try to follow that old timeline, because those in power stayed in power during that timeline and they still want to have that back. You know, as I talk about the ideas moving down the spiritual timeline on the fourth dimension as we move on to the 5DA, and the purpose of that is to allow us to evolve more naturally, more spiritually, to use programs like AI, like the genetics programs, like the governmental systems, the finance systems. They're all going to have to go away because they don't exist like that in the fifth dimensional concepts. And I explained the difference between 5DA and 5D and how we came to this world from what was called a fifth dimensional reality down to a third, how it was created and formed, and the fact that we're moving back now in the density levels of it. So the purpose of that book is to give people a bigger overview picture of where we're going and why we're going there, and to try to keep people from panicking or having fear when these programs of this world, which are all fear related, are trying to make you be afraid and to go down the non-advancing timeline, I like to say, even though we've already experienced it. And yes, there was advances, but not for the benefit of humanity. It was simply for a different program. And I go through again AI in this program and what it is and why it's important and how it really should be used and going. And then I also point out, as I said, a lot of these changes that are happening behind the scenes that many of you may not be aware of, and how it all ties together. So, you know, so the books are completely different. As I said, this is if you're looking at what is coming and you want to try to enter that what's coming without having the fear programs control your mind, your life, and your world, so that you can relax and move to the world that you want to go to. This is the one simply explaining you the depth and the number of layers there are within some of these matrix programs that you may not be aware of it or even realize that they were layers of the same program. This is the one is a more complete understanding of who and what you are, what everything is. You know, personally, if you have knowledge, this is the book I'd recommend for you. It's going to help to explain things that will really help you to move forward. And again, if you're just beginning on this and not really sure what you want to really understand even what I'm talking about, this one will probably help you quite a bit, because it'll at least start you to look at these things and realize that there are things out there that have controlled you that you may never have realized. And as I've always said, my goal is to get you to question your reality, to question who and what you are, to question your beliefs, to question everything. Don't accept everything you've been told simply as being the truth, because remember, a belief is something someone else has said. They talk about the idea in science, especially that the people who put their belief in science and their faith in everything they're told by science, and then they say, well, science changes over time as they learn more. Well, think about that for a second. The idea that if what science told you was an absolute truth changes over time, then whatever they told you before was the absolute truth was never the absolute truth to begin with. So anyway, I just want to go through that real kind of a little longer than normal, but have fun, read the books, enjoy, watch the videos, and enjoy your journey, and I'll see you at some point down the road.